Well, hello, here we are again. This is the next video. I think it's the fourth video in line on this wonderful path to self-love. We've spoken about a few things. Choice was the last one, the big issue of choice. And it just throws up so many wonderful aspects again of our humanness. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about responsibility, which I spoke a little bit about the last time on the last video. So I'm just going to skim over that as a reminder. And then I did say I was going to talk about forgiveness. And forgiveness, I personally think, comes at the end of a particular journey, a trying, wonderful, painful, surprising, bewildering journey to get to forgiveness. I'm always fascinated when you see people in the media who have been through terribly traumatic experiences and can immediately go to forgiveness. That automatically, immediately, unconditionally forgive the person that did this terrible thing. Which is, again, a very highly developed place to be. But I will be honest with you, sometimes I think it's easier to go into that immediate forgiveness and actually process some of the human emotions that arise from being, from resulting in finding yourself in a situation that is extremely traumatic. So there are stages of processing. I'm a big fan of processing. Process. Yes, things can happen. Yes, you can move on. But people have to process what's gone on. It's like, any kind of it's like a cake. Let's go to one of my favourite subjects, cakes. The cake has to process. Making bread, there's processes, there's things that come together, there's reactions, the process happens, and then eventually you get a product. Once you've got the product, then you can go into looking at it and then go into the emotions that we're talking about when you're talking about human events and occasions. But let's just talk about responsibility a bit. I'm kind of bringing responsibility and blame together, blaming language. It's a very, very useful thing. As I know I talked about language the last time. It's very useful to listen to what you say to people. Listen to if you take on that responsibility for what you've said, what you've done, even by mistake or purposefully, consciously or unconsciously. Or whether you try and shift the blame onto other people for reasons that are obvious, fear, disappointment, sadness, anger. There's a lot of reasons why we would rather someone else take responsibility, and sometimes you just don't feel up to it. You just don't feel ready to take that that step, that final step. And one I'm just going to give one bit of advice about language and blaming language and taking responsibility. And it's really simple, but of course it's not really simple, because the answer is always a little bit, could take a while. So for instance, one of the simplest things to hear what you say is when you're in a situation, you make me. You make me mad. You make me this. You make me that. You make me so sad. You make me, you make me, you make me. Okay? Now, that's a massive amount of power that you're giving away to another person. That some other person has the power to make you feel however they want you to feel. It's okay. Well, actually, after a really introspecting and considering, your role in whatever situation you find yourself in, It's much more helpful if you're on the path to self-love and really taking responsibility of loving yourself and monitoring yourself and being who you want to be. It's really useful to go, okay, when you do that, I feel annoyed. When you say that, I feel disempowered. When you do whatever it might be, I feel. Which is very different from saying to someone, you make me feel disempowered, you make me feel like shit, okay? As opposed to saying, when you say that, when you speak to me like that, I feel shit, okay? And again, it's a big shift in the dynamics and power, your own power. Because you're saying to yourself and the other person, you're kind of separating the two things, the trigger and the response, which is really useful to separate the trigger and response. So instead of kind of saying, you make me, you make me, you make me, when you do that, darling, I actually don't like it because it stirs up emotions of feeling like a child or feeling bullied or feeling stupid or feeling, whatever it makes you feel. And that's one of the first steps of taking responsibility for, and also not only taking responsibility for how you feel, but just giving back to that other person that, that responsibility that they actually need to take. So it's just a small thing for today. Just start listening. When you get into those situations, and we've all been in them, you make me this. When, it's like, you. And it's like, well, okay, wow, that's a really powerful person that can actually make anyone else feel the way they want at any point in time. So it's about taking responsibility, and it's about taking your power back. Okay. How do I make myself feel? What do I allow this person to do to me? How do I allow their words and their actions to affect my physiology, my mental state, my well-being, my happiness, my joy? Okay, how much power am I giving to this other person to accept, to allow them to affect me? How much power am I giving to them? And how much power am I allowing to seep out of myself in order that really they are not, I am not in control. They are in control. I am giving them control. I am giving them control of how I feel. Okay, so it's just a starter for 10, as they would say in the old days. So think about it. Blame and responsibility. Think about giving them all the power that you're giving them, therefore the control that you're giving them, and start to take that control back and think about your own language patterns and taking your power back. Just going, okay, well, I do feel like that. And there's not I would never suggest that you don't speak truthfully about how you feel, how that situation makes you feel. When that happens, I feel like a child. I feel like I'm in the naughty corner. I feel like, I'm you're going to put a dunce's hat on me. Okay, or when you say that, it makes me angry because I don't agree with it. And it elevates communication to a much more mature level. It elevates communication. And communication is the basis of every good relationship. And again, we're talking about not only personal relationships, but relationships between friends, lovers, bosses, co-workers, anyone that you have a relationship with. And it really does kind of give you a real firm grounding about who you are and reminds you of the power that you have. And I'm not talking about power, it's just personal power, personal confidence, personal kind of, realization of your self-worth and self-esteem. This is what these kinds of actions lead to. building up self-worth, self-esteem, self-love. Okay, so that was just what I wanted to say about responsibility and blame. And just looking at how much time. Oh, okay. Forgiveness, I think maybe I might actually defer forgiveness until the next time, because forgiveness it's a real ride, you know. It's a real, you have to go through some fires of transformation to truly forgive. Because, okay, let's start with this because it's coming up. So forgiveness is I'm sure you've probably, if you're watching these videos and you're interested, you've probably read stuff anyway about it. But, you know, forgiveness is forgiveness of self. You know, people say, I could never forgive, and I can understand that for what some people have been through. But again, forgiveness really starts with forgiveness of self. The balm of forgiveness of self. I forgive myself for thinking that, doing that, going there, saying that. But it's not like an empty, an empty phrase. It's like going to confession about doing some habit, confessing your sins, and then just going and doing it all week, and then confessing your sins on the Sunday, and going and doing it all week and confessing your sins. You know, that eats away at you. That lowers self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, how you feel about yourself. You know, this is downward spiral. The forgiveness of self is really thinking about, again, consequential thinking about, okay, I forgive myself, I did that, I didn't like myself when I did that, or said that, or behaved like that. I didn't like myself. I don't like being like that. It's not my true being. It's not my true self. So forgiveness really starts with looking at the self, forgiving the self for what you've said, done, behaved like, whatever it is. And then, you know, not just going, okay, I forgive myself, let's just go and do it all over again. Anyway, that doing it all over again, I've noticed in hypnosis with people, this repetition of self-defeating habits leads on this downward spiral of self-worth. Every time, if you're trying to give up smoking, every single time you have a cigarette, you start feeling, oh, here I am, weak-minded, unable to do it, haven't sorted out this, haven't done that. I always used to say to people, you know, if you're not ready to give up smoking, then smoke. Smoke and enjoy it. Whatever you do, you know, if you're at a party and someone says, oh, I really want to give up smoking. Well, really, do you? You know, what you're going to have in its place. Whatever smoking gives you, what's your coping mechanisms? You know, if you're at work and the boss is being a right git, and you go out for a cigarette, what are you going to do, you know, in those moments where you just need a little bit of relief? So I always used to say, so think about it, but let me tell you, while you're smoking, enjoy it, okay? Don't eat, smoke, do anything whilst, you know, repeating a negative belief about yourself. It's a surefire way to open. So when you're ready to give up whatever habit, but just forgive. I'm going off the point a bit because it's all so exciting. But this just for now, just think about forgiving the self and really ceasing the habits, the actions, the words, the behaviours that you really kind of you're really looking at. Because then forgiving someone else for what they've done to you is you know, a next you know, could be the next 20 videos. But anyway, time is up and it seems to go really quick today. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for having a look. I was going to say, if anyone's got any questions they want me to talk about around life and hypnosis, self-realization, spirituality, anything like that, just send me a message on my website, moonfiremagic.com, or leave a message underneath the video, and I'll try and answer it the best I can.